Welcome to Corey Products Smoke Damage Restoration video. Here today we're working on a Kawai VT118 with a variable touch control system, and we don't see many of these, at least I haven't. I'll zoom in so we can see what we have. And that rail comes off using the 3 screws in the center of each bracket. One there and another on that, and then at the end. The very first thing that we do when we're cleaning residue off of a piano is we want to do it in a dry state. This piano was in the living room with a kitchen fire right around the corner. Most kitchen fires are protein fires, grease, and the residue is typically very microscopic. It's very greasy in nature. There are some things that we don't see that are odor-bearing particles within the piano, both on the soundboard and the pedal board and the keys and so forth. Today what we're going to do is work on the keys. We're going to clean those in a dry state using a vacuum as well as using the Corey dry sponge. It's evident that some of the burning that was going on in the kitchen included some synthetic textiles, as you can see by the residue close up here on the inner rim. And I'll take a couple of other close-up shots so we can get an idea of what we're looking for. Here's another example of odor-bearing particles in the form of residue, which is in complete combustion, of carbon. And we'll obviously clean all that off today, and we'll show how that's done. Here are just 4 of our fire clean products that we'll use today. Or somewhere in the process. We have the carbon and soot destroyer, which we use for many things. It's a great universal cleaner, and it detoxifies, and it's a great counteractant as well. The Neg 25 right next to it is our water-based fogging agent, and I'll explain a little bit more of that as I demonstrate it. And we also have the thermal odor resolve fogging agent, which is a solvent-based product. And then we have finish rescue. On this particular instrument, because this is a satin finish, I probably won't use the finish rescue, as I use a combination of the carbon and soot destroyer, and I will use Corey's pre-polished finish cleaner along with satin sheen. And of course the benchmark Key Bright. That is something that we use all the time. I use Key Bright constantly for many applications, and I'll show you those today. This is the Corey dry sponge, what we use for dry cleaning on all bare wood. That in conjunction with vacuuming to remove all visible residue. And it's a pretty remarkable sponge. We have those for your convenience. They're packaged in a set of 2. And rather than buying a bigger one and tearing them apart, they're each individually wrapped so they stay nice and clean until you're ready to open it and use it. This particular vacuum cleaner that I'm using has been around for 30 plus years, maybe even 40. I've replaced the motor in it 1 time. It's probably the best vacuum I've ever used for our kind of work in the shop setting, and it works on cyclonic action. It's made by Compact Interstate Engineering, which is also known as the TriStar. If you can pick those up on eBay, I would certainly suggest doing that, or at a vacuum store. It's probably the greatest vacuum I've ever owned. It's not a wet vac for sure, but I have found that the wet vacs and so forth just make a lot of noise and they lose their suction instantly. This machine really works well. It's been down 3 flights of stairs. I mean, as you can see the condition of it, it's not pretty, but it really works well. And it's, again, it's called the Compact, and I use this religiously in all my shop work. I take it into the homes and so forth. I have 3 of these machines. Here are 2 brushes that I use typically. One is our pin block cleaning brush, and the other is a little brush I picked up at an automotive store. I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of cleaning. Excuse the vacuum noise, but I thought, being a video, it might be best to demonstrate. I've removed the variable touch system rail, actually both rails. Here you can see the key weight on one end of the flange, and then there's felt on the bottom side, as well as this rail has felt all the way down the line, and then the metal piece on top. I will be demonstrating how we're going to clean that using our carbon and soot destroyer, as well as our towelettes for smoke odor removal. Those will come in quite handy for piano work. Now that I've removed the variable touch system, we can get to the keys entirely and remove them from the piano. I just wanted to give a quick close-up so you can see how much residue and how filthy these keys really are. I'll try to zoom in slowly. And you don't see as much on the wood, but there is odor throughout. And of course we'll be dealing with the key bushings and the cap stands and so forth. In this particular set, you can see that there are 2 cap stands, 2 sets of cap stands. I'll demonstrate using the Cori dry sponge. The dry sponge may be torn into pieces or cut, however you'd like to do it. Primarily you can go through and you can wipe down all the bare wood parts, and each individual part you can clean the sides and use the corners of your dry sponge right in that nook. We'll use this on the keys as well. I also use it on the felt. It'll remove residue from the felt. One of my favorite products for smoke damage restoration is our Fire Clean brand pre-treated towelettes for smoke odor. They're just the perfect size towelette, and like the bottle says, they are pre-treated. It removes carbon and soot, detoxifies, and is a great counteractant. They're the perfect size to get into all the nooks and crannies and all the small parts dealing with a piano. In this particular instance, I'm going to use it on the flanges, the key weights, and the metal rail. You can also use it on wood as well. Just let that absorb right into the wood cells, and it'll detoxify it, and you'll have no more smoke odor. Just a quick note, when you actually receive your pre-treated towelettes, pull the end one from the center to feed up through the deposit hole there in the cap. And here's the size of the towelette. Like I say, they are pre-treated, and you can go through and clean each one of these. Get in the rail, and you can use any kind of a fine. You have to be creative sometimes in cleaning. So notice how I'm putting it down inside the rail, in between the flanges and the rail, right up in here. And I'm just going to go right down along the line, and it's going to remove that residue. And you can see a little bit of the discoloration, how it's lifted up the residue. And the towelettes work equally as well on the felt. As you can see how it moistens up a little bit, that felt will absorb that counteractant and cleaner. You don't have to worry about rinsing it off per se. But this is a real nice solution. And then you can get right down in the bottom side of the flange area, as well as the tabs right along here. I've already vacuumed this rail, and as I was saying before, how you can simply use the towelette just allowing the felt to absorb the counteractant. And I'm going to pull this back a little bit so we can have a visual of cleaning that. Once you're done with that side, then we can go ahead and clean this area right here. Clean the whole rail. This towelette works equally well for wood, for metal, it's excellent for piano finishes as well, which I'll demonstrate at a later time.